Hello and welcome back, everyone. Great to be with you. Excited to be starting another week of the Zohar together. Let's begin by setting our intention. We know that as we connect and study, connect to and study from the Zohar, we are not only reading and studying a great source of wisdom, but more importantly, we're connecting. We're plugging into the tree of life reality, those thoughts that go through our mind, the thoughts of our limited self, the thoughts of our ego, the thoughts of our opponent. We're able to override those thoughts, replace those thoughts with thoughts of our soul, with the true light within us, connecting us to the light of the Creator, connecting us to the light of who we really are, that light within us that is only love. So we're meditating as we continue to study, awakening more love within ourselves and the world, overcoming all aspects of our selfishness, the destructive force that exists within us. Let's begin with the prayer of the Ari, opening up our hearts, meditating for people we want to share this light with. Here we go. ריבון העולמים ואדוני האדונים, אב הרחמים והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדון מלכנו ואלוהי אבותינו, וכידע וישתחוויה שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך, עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה. ועולם החיינו שעשיתי מעל חסד גדול כזה, כן אנחנו מקפידים תחננו לפניך, שנלכו ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבניך, וכן יהא סופנך אדוני עלינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבנו ליראתך ולאהבתך. ותקשיב אוזניך לדברי אלה ותפתח לפני הערה בסודות תורתך ויהיה לבנינו זה נחת רוח לפני כיסא חברתך ככוח ותציל עלינו עומק כל נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו ושיתנוצצו נצוצות בניך הקדושים אשר על ידם גילית את דבריך לעולם וזכותם וזכות אבותם וזכות תורתם ותורתם ושכותם יעמוד לנו ולקשר בדברים אלו ובזכותם תעננו ומה שאנו לומדים כמאמר נעים זה מאוד ישראל גל עיניו ויביט עניו לא מתורתך כי אדוני ייתן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה יהי רצון מפיו הגן לי ולפניך אדוני וגואלי. So we are on paragraph 30, and we're in the middle of the Zohar setting up questions. Setting up a question or two questions. In paragraph 29, the Zohar said, and in this paragraph, in this chapter, we've been speaking about how the tzaddikim, the righteous, suffer, how that suffering, that pain they go through, and that process of overcoming their own comfort, that process of overcoming the hold of the body, brings them closer to the Creator. Now, we're not talking about how suffering is good. That's not what the point the Zohar is making. The point is that the nature of our body desires only pleasure at whatever cost, to feel good at whatever cost. But the soul understands that feeling good temporarily means missing out on ultimate good, on real connection to the light. Right? So the Zohar here is saying that the tzaddikim, they embrace those moments of this temporary discomfort to come to long-term connection to the soul, to the Creator. And the challenges we go through, challenges that tzaddikim go through, are opportunities to overcome that and also to strengthen their certainty. So in paragraph 29, the Zohar said that when the Creator only resides in a place of happiness. So when a person is going through troubles, when a person is going through experiencing suffering and pain, how can they be happy at the same time? If they're not happy, which again is normal during those moments of pain, that means they're not connected to the Creator. It means the Creator cannot reside upon them. So how does that work? They're righteous, but they're disconnected from the light. The example the Zohar gave was about Jacob. For more than 20 years, Jacob was going through the pain of losing his son Joseph, not knowing that Joseph was actually alive, and thinking he was dead. But he was going through that great pain for for years, and that entire time, because he was in so much sadness and pain, he didn't have a connection to the Creator. The Creator could not um, be revealed to him. So that's the first question, and now the Zohar is going to explain the next part, the second question, paragraph 30. V'chad da chaminan. Another question we must look at. We see that there are many tzaddikim, many people that are beloved by the Creator, and reminding ourselves when we say that someone is beloved by the Creator, it's not that the Creator likes them more because this person listens to what they say religiously, what God says religiously. No, it means that those are in who are in more affinity with the light. Whoever's in more affinity with the light is going to be closer to the Creator. So you see, there are many tzaddikim that are close to the Creator. We see there are many righteous people who their bodies weren't broken, meaning they didn't go through sickness and different types of pain and suffering. Their body wasn't weakened. Amai lav ilen kilen. Why are these not like the other? De ilen itavu. There are some tzaddikim that are broken. V'ilin kai begufayu. And there are others who uh, who remain unharmed. Let's say, right? They don't go through the same type of pain. So some remain healthy. Some go through a lot of physical pain, like we know, like Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, for example, or Rabbi Akiva. They went through a lot of pain, a lot of challenges. But there are other tzaddikim, and the Zohar doesn't list any, but there are other tzaddikim who it seems like they didn't go through the same type of pain, the same type of challenges. And they're equally, maybe even closer to the Creator. Paragraph 31. V'itema. So the Zohar says, if you're going to try and give this answer, which the Zohar will refute, the ha'ile dekaimu kiyama kidkayot. If you're going to say that those who don't go through suffering and they are tzaddikim, begin to inun tzaddikim de tzaddikei inun. You're going to say, well, these are because they have great merit. They are a tzaddik, they're a righteous person that was born of another righteous person. It's what's called a tzaddik ben tzaddik. Not only is this person righteous, his father was also righteous. Kamadu kumua, as we've explained. And these other ones, tzadikei lav bnei tzadikei, you're going to say, well, okay, so these ones are, he's a tzaddik and his father was a tzaddik. This one is just a tzaddik, his father wasn't a tzaddik. V'lav bnei tzaddik, ha ka chaminan, tzaddikim bnei tzadikei, ha'avoy dedein zakah b'zakah, v'yu zakah, amay yitav ha'gufim machovin. The Zohar says that can't be true either, because we do see people who are the righteous children of other righteous. We see that they still go through pain. And all their entire life, all their days are spent in pain and grief and tragedy. So it can't be that that's the reason. That those who go through pain, those who don't go through pain must be children of other tzaddikim, and those who do go through pain are not children of tzaddikim. It has nothing to do with the merit of your parents, nothing to do where you're from. 32. Here, the Zohar is going to answer the question. And the Zohar is going to answer the question over the next few paragraphs, and then Rav Ashlag has a commentary to explain it. So paragraph 32. Rather, there's a secret here. So are we all clear on the questions? Let me just skip a bit and come back. So these are the two questions, okay? Rav Ashlag is going to explain all this, but first question is, if the body of a tzaddik, a righteous individual, experiences pain and suffering, sadness is naturally experienced. But we're taught that the Shekhinah rests only where there is joy. How then can a tzaddik endure suffering and still serve as a dwelling place for the Shekhinah at the same time? This is how Rav Ashlag, I'm paraphrasing a bit of what Rav Ashlag says, but this is how he phrases the Zohar's first question. Second question is, we see there are tzaddikim who merited a close connection to the Creator without undergoing suffering at all. How are they different from the tzaddikim whose closeness to the Creator came specifically through pain and hardship? Okay, so these are the two questions the Zohar is asking. Let's go back to where we are. There's a secret. Everything the Creator does is with truth and with merit and with justice. It's not random. Now, we also want to remember as we're studying this, we're not talking about someone else. We're not talking about other righteous people and generations. And the Zohar is revealing to us how we can deepen our connection to the Creator and understand why darkness exists, why darkness is necessary often, how to face that darkness, how to connect to the inner light, the inner greatness that is within me. So this is the verse of how we began our chapter. This is how we began this whole discussion of tzaddikim and the pain they go through and the justice in this world. Where was this? Paragraph 25. So the verse states, "For he," referring to God, "pays a man according to his actions and provides for him according to his conduct." Right? So everything is according to the person's actions, and it's not random. It's not just random judgment that a person experiences. Ashkacha besifrei kadmai, or meaning everything the Creator does is according to cause and effect, perfect order. So the Zohar says specifically, this is Rabbi Chia. I think it's Rabbi Chia speaking right now. We find in ancient books, right? We talk about the Zohar as an ancient book. The Zohar is saying that there are even more ancient books. Razachada, we see a secret in these ancient books. Ugabe Razachara, and in regards to another secret, and with that secret comes another secret. One secret that is really two secrets, and there's really two answers, which means that this one secret will answer both these questions that we have. So this is what the secret that's within this ancient book. There are specific times that the moon is in a state of lack. Vishaya Bedina, and the moon is in a state of judgment. When it's in lack, it's in a state of judgment. Vishimshala ishtakach legaba, and when the moon is in a state of judgment and lack, the sun is not found with the moon. Now we know the moon represents Malchut, the Nukva, the feminine aspect, and the sun represents Zerampin, the masculine aspect. The moon is the lower level, the sun is the higher level, and when they come and they shine together, we're not talking physically about the moon and the sun, we're talking about the levels that they represent. When they shine together, that represents unification of masculine and feminine. And when the moon is in a state of lack, it's not connecting with the sun, which means it's not receiving its flow. The light is not shining as it should. Every moment and every time, at all times, the moon, again, which represents the nukva, the spiritual feminine side, is responsible for bringing in souls into our world. Not the moon, obviously. We're talking about what the moon represents, right? The feminine, supernal feminine side. So those souls come through the nukva, and that has to happen in all times. As it gathers those souls from in the beginning, from Zerampin, Ve'apekad lon hashta. And now these souls are sent into the world. V'zinna di'u kaima bedina. And some souls come into this world specifically when the moon or the malchut is in a state of judgment. Hai man denaki la be'ahu zinna. Whichever souls come into this world when the moon is when the malchut is in a state of judgment, the vetade bigriuta will constantly be in a state of lack, umiskenuta az legabe, and and poverty will constantly find them. They'll always be in a state of poverty. V'itavatade bedina, and they're going to constantly be broken with judgment. Kol nash. Every day of that person's life, that person's entire life. Bein chayava, bein zakah. Whether they are righteous or whether they are wicked, or whether they're wicked, whether they're righteous. So let's understand what the Zohar is saying here. Rabbi Chia is quoting this ancient book that says that the souls come into this world at all different times. And Rav Shimon will clarify this soon as well in his commentary. That souls need to come into this world. Sometimes there is a spiritual judgment in the spiritual worlds. And when the souls come during those moments, that is, those souls are attached or are from this realm of, let's say, lack. And they therefore are going to, no matter whether they are righteous or wicked, they're going to be going through lack throughout their life. They're going to be experiencing negativity. They're going to be experiencing judgments. And we'll see soon why that is. But this is just the Zohar's first just explaining this. And then the Zohar ends with something very powerful here at the end of this paragraph. Baal ditzlota, except for when you introduce prayer. Bated kol gizrei dinin. Prayer can annul any judgments. V'yachel isalka bitzlota. And a person can remove all of those aspects of judgment, negativity, through prayer. So this helps us also understand the power of prayer. The Zohar is saying that the way a person is born, when a person's soul comes into this world, you and I don't necessarily know if our soul came during these times when the moon was lacking, meaning there was a state of lack in the malchut, judgment in the malchut. If my soul came through, the Zohar is saying my soul came through the time of lack, then I will experience more challenges through life. If it came through the time of when malchut was not in judgment or lack, then my soul experiences less judgments. But the Zohar here is saying it makes no difference though. If you are connected to prayer, if you know the technology, the tool of prayer, you can annul any judgments no matter where your soul is from. True prayer, with the right consciousness, with maybe the right words, but probably more the right consciousness, that can annul, that can overcome any judgments that a person experiences, no matter the source of their soul, no matter the source of the judgment. That's why we say on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Utshuva, Utfila, Utzdaka, Ma'averin et Ro'a Gzera. No matter what judgment you have upon you, Teshuvah, true transformation, Tefillah, true prayer, and Tzedakah, true sharing, can overcome and remove and annul any negative decree. So the Zohar continues to explain this, and then again, Rav Shimon will explain soon. Paragraph 33. Ve'uzinna dekaimahu daga bishlimu. And when that level of the malchut is in a state of wholeness and perfection, right? In paragraph 32, we spoke about when it was in a state of lack. Now the Zohar is speaking about it when it's in a state of perfection, which means that this level called the river that is drawn forth, that is drawn and emerges from Eden, which represents the Yesod, when they unite. Right, giving that it's like Zohar is using terms used for physical intimacy, but obviously we're not talking about anything physical. We're talking about these spiritual levels. Talking like again the sun and the moon, the Zerapina Malchut. Those souls that come during those times of wholeness, of connection, of perfection, of flow. The souls that come from there, The soul that eventually comes and joins that person down in this world. This person is in this is whole, is perfect. Wealth, children, and a healthy body. Those people that are born in those times experience health and wealth. Just it sounds like the Zohar is saying, like, depending on when you're born, depending on what happens spiritually, then that will mean your life will be good, or your life will be bad. Your life will be full of blessings, your life will be full of suffering. Why is that fair? Well, before we even go into Rav Ashlag's answers, which we have a few more paragraphs to get to, the way we understand astrology, for example, people think, oh, I was born in this day at this time, and that's why I'm like this. And that's why my life is so this or my life is so that. We understand it the opposite way. A person has their tikkun. A person has their purpose. A person has what they're supposed to do in this world. It's not that the baggage they have is because of the time that they're born. It's because you have certain things to correct. Certain aspects of yourself need to exist. Certain pain or certain gifts a person needs to be able to hold or have or manifest, because that is what their soul needs. So in order for the soul, let's say, to do what it needs to do in this world, maybe it needs to go through more pain, let's say. We'll explain what the point of pain is later. So it means it needs to be born in those times. That is when those souls experience, the souls that come through lack are going to experience more lack. The souls that come through wholeness are going to experience more wholeness. It's not random. It's that the souls that need lack are going to be born into a time of lack. The souls that need a state of wholeness are going to be born into a state of wholeness. The stars, as the Rav would say, they don't control, they don't compel. It just represents, it's just a sign of what is really what needs to happen. So if a person needs a certain aspect of their tikkun or certain aspect of certain outcome in life, it's not that is the cause. What we experience and what happens is not the cause of it. It's just based on their tikkun, that's the cause, and then we see it manifest through the day they're born, or the time they're born, or the country they're born in, etc. 34. So Zohar says it all depends on this thing called Mazala. Mazala, people translate as Mazal. Mazal, people understand as luck, or constellation, or destiny. The Zohar here uses this phrase, and we've learned about this before. Rav Ashlag says this represents the level of Yesod. We're not talking about luck. Kabbalah does not believe in luck. Kabbalah, because that means that things are random. Things are not random. Kabbalah explains, and Mazal represents a state of flow. The Nagiv and Afik is the Yesod that the flow through Yesod that goes through which is drawn and spreads forward. It's like we said before, like the river that flows from Eden. Mazal represents a state of flow of blessings from a higher state. Vidchava behudaga. It attaches on that level. This flow comes from this level, representing the Malchut. So when the Yesod flows into Malchut, in order for Malchut to be in a state of perfection, and then the Malchut becomes blessed by the flow that comes through Yesod, which means Malchut is in a state of wholeness. Therefore, the Zohar says everything is dependent on this level of Mazal, this flow that exists. We've learned Mane, Chaye, Mezone, these three levels, that everything that depends on Mazal. Bane represents children, represents a person's relationships, children and family, are all dependent on this level. Chaye, which represents vitality, health, right? Physical, emotional, on all levels. And Mizone represents sustenance, how much money a person is going to have, right? So the person's relationship with children, a person's health, and a person's sustenance, money, all depend on this level of mazal, of mazala. Elav bischuta talya milta, as the Zohar says, this is a common phrase that the Zohar uses when speaking about this level of mazala. And as we're studying about this level, by the way, we're attaching ourselves to this flow. A person's connection to mazala is not dependent on their merit. Ella b'mazala, a person's merits, a person's blessings. A person's blessings do not depend on their merit. Rather, everything depends on mazal. Everything depends on connection to this level. Now, again, people understand this to mean there's nothing you can do about your destiny. Whatever is determined, that's what you're going to receive. We're learning something different. Right? Like before, we just said even prayer can change everything. It's not about merit. Rather, the malchut needs to be filled and shine from this level called mazala, from Yisod. We'll explain more. 35. Therefore, whoever is broken in this world, and they are really, truly righteous people, they're all broken in this world, and they experience judgment. Why is that? Because it's their soul that they receive from the time of lack, from the nukva, that causes that. Therefore, and because of the pain they go through in this world, the Creator has mercy on them in the world to come. Now, there's a lot to misunderstand here, and let's try and come to some clarity and understanding. So let's review the two questions the Zohar said. That's how Rav Shimon begins his commentary here. And this is like, let's say, a page of commentary or so. So the two questions, I think we'll have time for... All right, we got to move quick. Two questions we asked. If a person goes through suffering, they're going to be sad. If a person is sad, they can't experience the Creator's light. So how does that make sense with a tzaddik? We also learned that there are people tzaddikim who go through pain, tzaddikim who don't go through pain. We said that the pain brings a person closer to the Creator. So how can those who don't go through pain get close to the Creator? Why do some experience pain? Why do some not? So now the Zohar gave the answer of this teaching from the ancient book. How does that answer the question? The ancient book said that the souls come through times of wholeness and times of lack. When the malchut is in its time of wholeness and lack. So here, the Zohar gives a little understanding based on something also explained in the Tikkunei Zohar. We can understand this based on the moon phases. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a literal understanding, okay? Because in the Zohar it says, remember we mentioned a few weeks ago, or last week, or I don't know, 2 weeks ago, that there are what are called the 28 times. In the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, King Solomon speaks about there's a time of life, there's a time of death, there's a time of happiness, there's a time of sadness, there's a time to plant, there's a time to harvest, right? All these 28, he lists 28 positive things, 28 negative things. The Zohar explains that analogy represents the 28 days of the lunar month. 28 days of the lunar month, the first 14 days, day 1 to 14, from the new moon till the day before the full moon, represents the right column aspect of, should have been different, but that's how it looks, at least from here, represent the right column aspect of the month, positive aspect of the month. The days 16, no, it should be 16, 16 to 28, that represents the negative aspect of the month. So as the moon grows, which means as the moon waxes, as it gets bigger every day, represents the power of the vessel being more and more filled, greater and greater. The nukva, the malchut, the moon growing and increasing in size and light that's being revealed. Then the peak of the light of the moon is on the full moon, and then it starts to diminish, it starts to wane. So those represent the times of lack, when the moon is lacking. So you can understand literally what the Zohar is saying, that the times of when the moon is full, when the Malchut is full, it represents the first half of the month. And there's times when the moon is lacking, represents the second half of the month. So is the Zohar saying that anyone born between the new moon and the full moon is going to experience greater blessings? Anyone born from the full moon to the end of the month is going to experience hardship? Not necessarily, but this is one way to understand what the Zohar is saying. One way to understand also, that's why we have the Kabbalah calendar. That's why the Rav was also very particular about certain times of the month to do certain things, to make big decisions and big things on the first half of the month when the moon is full, represents greater mazala, greater flow. If a person needs to get married, a lot of things, it's better to do it on the first half of the month. The Rav was speak a lot about this. So so the first understanding when the Zohar is talking about how there are times when the the moon, the Malchut, is in a state of wholeness versus a state of lack. When it's connected to the state of lack, as we said, it represents a connection to the left column energy of the moon, which means that it means when the Malchut is attached to the left column. That's when there are judgments. So when it says that souls come into the world, as we said in paragraph 32, souls come to the world when the moon is in the state of lack. It represents when the moon is in the state of judgment, left column, attachment to left column. So souls that come into this world, and souls come into the world when the moon is in a state of intense lack, state of wholeness, and a state of perfection, right column, left column, central column. Different souls come at different times. But we're talking specifically when the souls come in a moment of lack, that is the moments when the moon is attached to the left column, which means souls that come into the world in those times, and those in that state means they are more attached to the left column. When the moon is in a state of judgment. And therefore, whenever a person receives a soul during that time, in the time when the left column is in a state of judgment, the time of excuse me, when the Malchut is in a state of judgment, left column is presiding. What's the difference of how a righteous and a negative person will experience? The negative person will, again, their soul's more attached to the left column. Their soul came from the left column. He's attached to the left column and he never leaves that control of selfishness. What happens to the tzaddik who's born attached to the left column? Because of the pain and the challenges and the darkness they experience, they manage to leave the hold of the left column and instead they purify themselves and they attach themselves to the right column through their challenges, through their transformation, through their effort. They manage to leave the attachment of the left column and instead attach themselves to the right column. And that's how they experience the Creator's love, which means they come to a state of affinity. Instead of expressing their selfish nature, continue to express their selfish nature. They manage to transform it and awaken a connection to the Creator's love that is drawn from the right column. And that's what it means to connect to the world to come. Now, there's a lot more here, but so why do some tzaddikim, like question two, we said, why are some in a state of wholeness, meaning they need to go through suffering, some don't? When those that come through a state of wholeness, it means that their soul came through when there is a flow, right? So they don't need to go through suffering. Their soul doesn't need to detach from the left column. Those who go through suffering is because when they receive their soul is attached to the left column. And the suffering, meaning the challenges, the pain, the discomfort, is what allows them to detach from the left column and instead connect themselves to the right column. And even though they themselves have no negativity, they are pure, they are righteous, but because their soul comes only from the left column, which means it's in a state of lack, it's not whole, and because of the Creator's great love for them, the Creator will help them get out of the control of the left column through discomfort and pain. And I'm trying to get to, excuse me, everything the Zohar says here, or Rav Shimon says here, but just because we're short on time. So now, so the other question we asked was, how can a person be connected to the Creator when they're in a state of pain? In that moment, they're in a state of sadness. So that those moments of suffering, the challenges, they cause them to detach not from the Creator, but from the left column, the selfishness that's within them. Um, and right, there's always saying that when a person is sad, they're disconnected from the light, but also when a person is selfish, they're disconnected from the light. So the darkness helps them detach from the selfishness, and with their certainty, they will remain in a state of joy and be able to connect to the Creator. So let's just simply answer these questions. I know we're over time, but the first question we asked was how can a tzaddik go through suffering and still be a resting place for the Creator? When we're in a state of left column, we're already detached from the Creator. So what the Creator does is it helps bring up where that left column is, where that negativity is, and help give that person the ability to transform that so they can remain connected to the Creator in a state of joy. Even through the challenges, they maintain the state of joy, they maintain a connection to the Creator, and they purge themselves, let's say, of whatever would naturally detach them from the Creator, which is their selfishness. The pain that a person goes through can help them overcome their selfishness, the stubbornness of their lower self of their body. Second question we ask, why do those go through suffering and have a connection? Some who don't go through suffering have a connection. What's the difference? It depends on what work that soul has to do. There are some souls that are here to remove more judgment, more left column within them. They are tasked. It's often the souls, the higher souls, that are entrusted with overcoming more of the left column judgment in the world. Like, for example, Rabbi Chaim Vital, his teacher, the Ari, told him that his soul came from a place of very, very, very dark negativity. Rabbi Chaim Vital, who was, again, the greatest student of the Ari, who revealed all the writings of the Ari, his soul came from the darkest of places because, because his soul was so great, he could transform more of those challenges. The Zohar teaches us that when a person goes through pain, it's because their soul can handle that pain and they can handle the transformation of that negativity. And those who have transformed, those who come from darkness and have transformed, are the ones who can remove the most negativity from the world. That's why Rabbi Akiva, all the sages who came from a place of darkness, they actually revealed the greatest amount of light because they were so surrounded by negativity and selfishness. And then when they managed to change it, they become the greatest source of light in the world. We'll continue with 36 tomorrow. Maybe we'll add a little bit more from the commentary here. But thank you for joining. Lots of love to everyone. Sorry for going a bit over time. And see you tomorrow. Lots of love, guys.